Welcome back to the Small Business Show. I'm your host, Lori Brooks. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. This week, I have the pleasure of chatting with Mickie Kennedy, founder and president of eReleases, the small business leader in press release distribution, now celebrating 22 years in business. Mickie is an expert at helping small businesses increase their visibility and credibility, and he's here today to share some valuable insights. Mickie, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, it's great to be here.
It's great to have you. I am super excited to dive into your journey and dive into your practice today. But before we do, I really want to rewind the clock just a bit. I want to go back to the days of elementary school, junior high. Think about a time when a teacher or an aunt or an uncle would ask you what it is you wanted to be when you grow up. Mickie, what was your answer to that question back then?
I wanted to be a writer. Ever since I was small, I saw myself as being a writer and, writing books and things like that.
Did you used to write short stories when you were a child?
Yeah, I wrote short stories, poetry, all kinds of stuff like that.
Love it. And I think you are still writing poetry
to
this day. Is that correct? Awesome.
That is,
so
yeah.
I love that you have maintained the time for the passion throughout the journey. It is so important. So kudos to you for that. So you knew you wanted to be a writer early on in life. What was it that you feel sparked the thought process or even the idea of entrepreneurship and working for yourself for you?
I think for me, I grew up with a grandfather who was always starting businesses. He would start one business after another every 2 to 4 years. He would start something, lose interest, usually put people in place to run it, and then he'd move to something new. And so he was like a serial entrepreneur. And so I think I kind of got the idea from him, but when I went to grad school and got a creative writing degree with an emphasis in poetry, and I kind of just assumed I was going to wait tables, and I did that after I graduated, and I realized that it's terrible being on your feet 10 to 12 hours a day, and I felt like just exhausted every day after a big lunch rush or whatever we were doing, and I just realized I needed a safe office job, and I just sort of bounced into a telecom research startup as employee number 3, and because I had a writing background, they said figure out press releases and send them out for us, and I got really good at it. I knew that if we publish numbers, and I said the media is not going to be interested in numbers. What's the story behind the numbers? And so I would go to the other 2 people that work there and say, hey, why is there this anomaly in the Caribbean where one country receives more incoming traffic from the United States than all other Caribbean countries combined? And it was because of call centers and 1-900 numbers and just the certain regulations that took place there. And so I brought a story together and shared it, and it got picked up in The Economist, Washington Post, Financial Times. People responded to it. And so I started there, and I was doing faxing at the time because that's all I knew. I was working for the owner of the company who was a lawyer, and he says, oh, you just fax this to the media. And I started to see a trend where after I'd fax it, the media would contact me and say, could you just email it to us in the future? And so that's when the aha moment went off, and I'm like, email, e-releases, electronic releases. And so I just started building a database of journalists. And about a year later, I launched e-releases and started just being a matchmaker, sending press releases on behalf of clients to media that were interested in that industry or topic.
That is outstanding. And I thank you so much for really laying that journey and the thought process out and how those pieces kind of fit together now. Because that's one of those pieces, that's one of those things that I love about having these conversations, because I think it gives the viewers the opportunity to see how those random bits throughout life can combine to create something really amazing in the future. And at the time, when you were deciding that you wanted to be a writer, when you were getting your creative writing degree, when you landed the random position that you thought was so random, and then assigned the job of the press releases. These were all random instances for you that combined into this opportunity that, using your own creativity and recognizing the opportunities available, you've turned into your own practice. And that's really how this journey evolves for the most part. It's not that we wake up one day and we say, this is exactly how it all works. That's not at all how the journey happens. I promise you all, it's not how it happens. It's really a matter of picking up the pieces as you go, taking a moment to step back, reflect on what those pieces can possibly become, and then being creative and opportunistic enough to dive into the journey. So I'm curious for you, what was it once you started thinking about, okay, e-releases, this is a good idea. This is something that I want to kind of run with. What was it that made you truly take that first step for yourself? What was the push for you, the catalyst?
I think it was working at a startup where it was expected to do 60 to 70 hours a week. I just felt like I was burning myself out by working for someone else. And I made good money, but when you split it across two jobs, it wasn't near as much. And that's what I was doing. And I just sort of felt like the risk of starting your own business wasn't very high. At the time, I wasn't married. I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. And so I just felt like I could do it. And I put all the things in place for me to do that. And of course, I didn't give up my job until I was bringing in enough money to replace what I would be losing. And so I was very risk adverse and cautious and conservative. So that was sort of the way I approached it. And I tried to stay small and spend as little as possible in the beginning.
Yes, definitely. You thought it through. You didn't just say, all right, I want to be an entrepreneur, dive in, quit your job, go for it gung ho. You maintained a source of income to be able to finance life overall. You made sure that you were financially stable, and you maintain that throughout the journey. You have to take your time. You have to set yourself up for success. And that's precisely what you did. You really made sure that your financial future was secure before jumping off the ledge and going for it. So please share with us where you are with e-releases now, and how you work with your clients today.
Right. So e-releases is much larger now. We have 6 editors and a managing editor that works, and that's the customer facing person. We have no salespeople. And basically, we help people distribute their releases, and we also offer writing services as well. One of the really great things is that over the years, PR Newswire reached out to us and said we should also send our releases through them. And I pointed out that they charge over $1,000 to move a 500-word press release nationally, and my clients can't afford that, and they're much smaller. And surprisingly, they didn't go away. They said, look, we really like the small business community, entrepreneurs, startups, and people like that. And so we're willing to, build a relationship that works so that all the releases still go out nationally. And these people are given an opportunity that normally they just wouldn't be able to afford. So that's the really cool thing about what we do. It's cheaper to use us than going directly to the newswire. And it's a real benefit to small businesses and entrepreneurs because many of them just wouldn't be able to afford to spend more than $1,000 every time they're issuing a press release.
Definitely. Stop and take a moment to check out e-releases if you are at all thinking about doing a press release in the near future, or in the future when you get to that point with your practice, when you're thinking about how do I formulate a press release? Where do I go? Now you know where to go. I think that what you're doing is outstanding. And I like that you spoke to the fact that building relationships is what assisted you in being able to provide the services that you provide. Building relationships throughout this journey really helps to support the opportunities that you can provide later on, not just when it comes to your network. You want to be sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are able to help you throughout that journey, support you throughout that journey, be it in the manner of the relationship building or supporting your mindset, supporting your thought process. Having that person to bounce those ideas off of, really building relationships is another important piece that I thought was excellent that you brought up, that I just wanted to be sure to pull out there. So I'm definitely curious. If you have the opportunity to go back, say 10, 15 years, Mickie, and tell yourself just one thing to help you throughout your entrepreneurial journey, what do you feel like that would be?
I think it would be to let go sooner.
Mm,
One of the things that I realized and discovered in the process of building a business and having several people work for me is
mhm.
that I am naturally a micromanager, and I want everything to be perfect and everything that's said by anyone at the company to be my exact words, and that's just not practical. And I had huge turnover in my business where on average people would stay for 1 year. And
Mhm.
in April of 2015, I had to get away. I told the office
Right.
I was going home and I'll still do the marketing, but the day-to-day stuff to work under the managing editor. And I could not help myself but to micromanage. And so they knew it was a problem. I knew it was a problem, and I just couldn't help myself. So I'm like, if I'm not there, I can't do it. And
Right.
so the business grew after I left. Almost everyone that's there at that time in 2015 is still there. So the
Nice.
turnover rate went from 1 year to 7+ years now. And
Mhm.
so that's the biggest thing I knew that and discovered is that I'm not good at managing people. I have this perfection. Uh, I don't know if it's you would call it like a flaw, but I just want everything to be perfect, and it can't be. And when it comes to other people, you have to delegate and give them the tools and resources to be good at their job and to recognize when they are good.
Mhm. Definitely. I think that the need to be a perfectionist is not a flaw. I think it's just a trait when it comes to entrepreneurs. I think the need to learn how to delegate is something that every entrepreneur goes through, period, where they fight with themselves over whether or not it's time to and how to. I think that's just kind of one of the features of being an entrepreneur. Overall, letting go is something that we have to do early on in the journey in order to really achieve and maintain that success. I know that you actually assist people with is figuring out their own unique selling proposition. And so I'm curious, with your practice, what you feel the unique selling proposition is, how it is you also help entrepreneurs go about coming up with their unique selling proposition. And
Right. So I think for me, the e-releases unique selling proposition is our strong customer support, holding hands, giving people education and information,
mhm,
as well as the newswire distribution that's just cheaper to use us than going directly to the newswire. That would be like our USP. And when it comes to others who are looking to build a USP or don't realize they need to build a USP, is the most successful companies out there are doing something a little bit different than everybody else and something that they're known for. And
mhm,
if you're in a commodity business or you're providing a service along with many others, what could you do that makes you a little bit more unique? For some
mhm,
people, it's carving out a place on TikTok and being
mhm,
the person who discusses this topic on TikTok and
mhm,
lets the algorithm find their customers and their audience through that. Some people it's how they deliver their business. They might be heavy on education, like e-releases,
mhm,
or they could be, something where they try to be really quick ship. And so that if you
mhm.
order something, you'll have it within a day or two. You really have to define what it is important in your customer base and what you could possibly achieve that would be something that would be unique and stand alone. One of the interesting things about e-releases is we work with about a third of the people that appear on Shark Tank doing a press release announcing their episode before it airs. And they always get media pickup. And it doesn't hurt that they're on a large national TV show. But I think one of the reasons that they find it so easy to get media pickup is they have an elevator pitch down really tight, and they know what they're doing that's different than everybody else. And once you know that and you own your story, you can sort of bring in inspiration. You can talk about obstacles or challenges, or you can just be very vulnerable in a way that reaches people. And that is something that the media can often turn into a story, because at the end of the day, journalism is about building stories and articulating that. And so it's not unusual for my customers to do a new product launch where they just announce the product and have a dozen bullets of the features and then wonder why no one picked it up. And yet, if they had included case studies of people who had beta tested it and what the results that they achieved and a quote from them, that is a story. And that's something a journalist could have built an article around. A list of features rarely is enough to build an article around it.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you. I like how you explained. It's not necessarily the product, but it can also be the positioning that you take in the market. I thought that was excellent. So the show is really designed to assist entrepreneurs or those who are looking at the entrepreneurial journey and becoming an entrepreneur in seeing what the journey is all about, and also hopefully coming up with an idea for a business in an industry that they may not have been thinking of. And Mickie, you are one of the very first guests that we've had on the show who actually assists small business owners with press releases. If you had that magic wand and could change anything in your practice, what do you feel like that would be?
I think for me, one of the things that I'm working actively to try to do is to get my education in front of more of my customers. I have a free masterclass on building strategic types of press releases. And it's basically built on, I looked at the 1,000 most successful press releases we've issued and found a lot of similarities. And yet I still get press releases every day for a new VP of HR or something like that. And those press releases will not get media pickup outside of maybe a local newspaper and one trade publication. But even then, that's rare. And I say, if you're going to spend money to issue a release, do strategic types of press releases, the ones that matter, the ones that can result in media pickup. Sometimes when I have a client that just feels defeated and they've done several releases with no pickup, I always say, do a survey or study within your industry and send that out, get the results, put it together in a press release, what the biggest aha moments were, and you will get media pickup. You want to ask questions that are very timely right now. We live in a time where there's economic uncertainty right now. There are shifts in labor, people, how they work has changed post-pandemic. And so there's a lot of really cool things that you could be asking about within your industry and get people's temperature on what their spending is on marketing. Is it declining? Is it, have they stopped hiring, or are they still facing hiring challenges? All of that could be really useful to put together in a study. And, it's easy to also get people to complete your study, because there's lots of trade associations within your industry. The small and independent ones are willing to share that survey with their members, especially if you mention that you're going to include them in a press release you'll be issuing over the wire. And so it's not as difficult as you think, putting together a survey and getting the results and building out a press release. But yet, it's probably one of the most effective types of press releases that we see. On average, between 6 and 14 original articles get written every time you do a press release based on a survey or study. And that's a really high pickup rate. There are PR firms that charge $5,000 to $10,000 a month, and they won't even guarantee 5 media pickups in a 6-month period. So to have something that works so well and delivers so many results is really strong. And yet I can't get many of my clients to do it. So if I could wave a magic wand, I would get my clients to do more strategic types of press releases, because I know they would have more wins. And it does take a little bit more work, but it's not, unbearable work.
Understood. Strategic press releases, guys. Get them out there. That is an excellent pointer. And thank you.
And if your community is interested, like I said, it's a free masterclass. It's at ereleases.com/plan, PLAN, and it's completely free. A lot of people charge for courses and things like that. But my goal is to get my clients and people who are interested in press releases doing more meaningful types of press releases. So I didn't want any gate or anything to block them.
Outstanding. That is lovely. And I will be sure to include that link on the show notes page. So ereleases/plan. Yes. Yep. ereleases.com/plan. Excellent. Yep. So we will be sure to include that on the show notes page. Thank you. Thank you. So, and be sure to check it out, guys. Don't just let it be a link that's sitting there as a resource for later on. Go in, check it out. There are multiple resources that he has offered for you to kind of look at through eReleases, but ereleases.com/plan is the actual plan laid out for you to look at. So that is outstanding, Mickie. I thank you for sharing that. You have been outstanding, and I would love for you to share the best way for our viewers to go ahead and reach you.
So the website's ereleases.com. All my social media is on the lower right. LinkedIn's the one that I probably use most actively, and it's the easiest one to contact me on. But in the meantime, feel free to reach out to anybody on the website. We have chat, we have phone number and email. You'll only interact with editors who are all empowered to say no, or to let you know if we feel we can't help you, because that's one of the frustrating things for me is I see other people come to me and say, I've done press releases on this site and this competitor. And I'm like, yeah, I can understand why you didn't get media pickup, because in your industry of alternative health or whatever the bottleneck is, the media is not using the wire to get stories. And as a matter of fact, they're not really displaying most of them. And so sometimes we can't help you. So I'd rather turn you away than take your money. And all my staff are empowered to be completely honest with someone about their chances of pickup. And but that being said, we do have really great success stories where people get slam dunks and get lots of media pickup. And that's really exciting when that happens.
Awesome. ereleases.com. Mickie, you have been outstanding. I thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your journey and e-releases with the community.
Yeah, you're very welcome.